The purpose of this presentation is to enhance your understanding of the foreign intelligence threat to U.S. industry, and more specifically to heighten your awareness of your responsibilities to protect and safeguard Department of Defense classified and company proprietary information and material. During this presentation, we will discuss hostile intelligence services and their methods of gathering information, motivations for espionage, and specific areas of concern here at Aero and Naval Systems. There will be an opportunity at the conclusion of this presentation to ask any questions you may have. Thank you for your attention concerning this important program.
Since the 1960s, hostile intelligence services have focused on gaining information about critical technology used in military applications. Soviet intelligence collection efforts have been directed toward private sector industry and research organizations developing leading-edge technology. Technology developed in the U.S. can be purchased or stolen in order for potential enemies to gain something they cannot readily produce themselves. Desired information may or may not be classified. It could be embargoed or sensitive but unclassified information or materials such as those found in automated information systems. This information includes manufacturing techniques and dual-use technology such as microcircuitry developed for non-military purposes. The technology gap shown on the diagram symbolizes lead time in years of development. This advantage depends on slowing the flow of technology from Western to Eastern Bloc countries. As the gap narrows, so does our chance of survival as a political and economic power. The collection of vital high-technology information and the reduction of this time lag has been given the highest priority by Soviet bloc intelligence organizations. And it is not just communist countries that we have to worry about. Recent espionage cases involving Israel and Ghana, both of which are considered friendly countries, demonstrate that there is no such thing as friendly intelligence services. But there are intelligence services of allied nations, and they also are definitely interested in what we're doing. Although allied, these governments may also attempt to exploit American citizens for economic and political advantage. The major threat is from Soviet intelligence services and their surrogate organizations in Eastern European countries. The KGB, or Committee for State Security, is the most notorious of the foreign intelligence services. A mammoth organization, the KGB is described as the Soviets' equivalent of our FBI, CIA, NSA, and Secret Service combined. With a worldwide staff believed to be several 100,000 strong, it is the largest single organization in the world. In addition to the KGB, there is the GRU, or Chief Intelligence Directorate of the Soviet Ministry of Defense. The GRU is strictly an overseas operation, staffed exclusively with military officers concerned with the collection of strategic and tactical intelligence. Together, the GRU and KGB engage in a massive collection effort against the United States and allied countries. It is estimated by the FBI that approximately 1/3 of all Soviet diplomatic staff posts are actually KGB or GRU agents. In 1983 alone, over 100 Soviet diplomats were expelled by 24 countries for activities inconsistent with their diplomatic status. Both the KGB and GRU are tasked by the Military Industrial Commission, or VPK. The VPK coordinates the development of all Soviet weapon systems, as well as the program to acquire Western technology on which they are heavily dependent. As mentioned earlier, potential adversaries are not after only classified information. They are also interested in unclassified but sensitive high-technology items which might have military application, as well as economic and foreign policy information. According to the Senate Subcommittee on Intelligence, the top priority taskings for Soviet intelligence operations are U.S. strategic nuclear forces, key foreign policy issues, congressional defense intentions, defense weapons systems information, advanced dual-use technology, and U.S. intelligence sources and methods. The logical question is, how do foreign intelligence organizations get what they want? To answer this, we must look at not only their methods, but also our vulnerabilities which allow them access. The activities of the intelligence services of potential adversaries are characterized as a multidiscipline threat, or all-source collection effort. Foreign intelligence services continue to employ every means available to collect classified and sensitive information, particularly in the area of high technology having military applications. Foreign services have an obvious advantage when operating in an open society such as the United States. Freedom of information, speech, and movement, also open dissemination of ideas, scientific findings, publications, and conferences. Technical and professional journals such as Aviation Week and Space Technology are so popular that each new issue is immediately flown directly to Moscow and translated en route. Our press and investigative journalists enjoy constitutional freedoms, even to the extent that classified information is often in the public media when leaks do occur. Official government documents, journals, and newsletters are all readily available just for the asking. By well-practiced use of the Freedom of Information Act, even foreign diplomatic representatives can retrieve reams of technical data, some only recently declassified. And in recent years, great concern has been raised about remote access to commercial and government computer databases. This sort of open collection accounts for over 1/3 of Soviet requirements. Lenin said in the 1920s, "The capitalists will sell us the rope we need to hang them," and we have been selling it. It is estimated that more than 30,000 pieces of Western one-of-a-kind dual-use hardware was acquired and used to improve the performance of Soviet military equipment and weapon systems. A classic example is the 1972 Chucking Grinder Corporation case, where the Soviets purchased 164 precision ball-bearing grinders, all above board and allegedly for non-military use. It turned out, however, that these bearings allowed the Soviet Union to build high-quality inertial guidance systems. Shortly thereafter, they deployed a new generation of ICBMs, which were 10 times more accurate than previous types, and for the first time were capable of carrying multiple warheads. Trucks used to carry troops into Afghanistan were made at the Karma truck plant, constructed with $1.5 billion worth of American and European production machinery. Critical technology about manufacturing techniques is often embedded in the hardware itself. The hardware is obtained by illegal export and the technology is retrieved by reverse engineering. The technology could include such things as composition of alloys or the configuration of microcircuitry. The shipment of equipment based on falsified documentation, usually involving final destination, to a country where the equipment can be legally sold, then to neutral and finally Eastern Bloc countries, is called illegal diversion. The illegal transfer of Western technology recently reached such proportions that it was frequently referred to as the high-tech hemorrhage. U.S. Customs in 1983 alone seized more than 2,000 illegal consignments worth over $100 million destined for Eastern Bloc countries. Some of this advanced hardware, which incorporates critical technology, is as small as a microchip. Other larger types, such as the Gasonics unit for manufacturing silicon chips, was easier for federal agents to detect and stop in transit. Intelligence sources tell us that the greatest beneficiaries of this high-tech hemorrhage were Soviet electronics, armor, and electro-optics industries. We have been particularly hard hit in the areas of computer and microelectronic fabrication, where half of all major diversions took place. Currently, the illegal loss of major microelectronic fabrication equipment has reduced our technology lead in microelectronics by 50%. There are other painful examples, but in recent years there has been a concerted effort by the Departments of Commerce, Defense, and Treasury to stop the loss of critical technology. This applies to the tightening up of security governing licensed exportation and also greater prosecutions of individuals who attempt to get around the laws and regulations. Some people consider illegal export as a form of white-collar crime. In reality, it is espionage, a betrayal of national loyalty for the sake of profit. That information which cannot be obtained from open sources or purchased as hardware becomes subject to theft. Covert activity tasked on the KGB and GRU includes the use of spies, who usually rely on the assistance of a paid or coerced collaborator. This is referred to as exploiting human intelligence sources, or HUMINT. A large part of covert collection is done by electronic and photographic methods, referred to as technical intelligence. Technical intelligence includes imagery and signals intelligence, or IMINT and SIGINT for short. Satellite photography has been acknowledged as the most important source of IMINT in recent years. High-altitude aircraft have also been used since World War II for IMINT collection. An excellent example is the Tu-95 Bear-D, which regularly covers our northern bordered areas. Just how good are these high-altitude photographs? Although the exact specifications are classified, it is safe to say that with new high-resolution film, long focal length lenses, and computer enhancement, remarkable detail can be achieved, even from several miles up. Although there isn't a great deal we can do about this type of collection offensive other than keeping sensitive equipment under cover, we need to be aware of the fact that we are subject to surveillance from above by highly sophisticated photographic devices. Signals intelligence is a combination of intercepting voice or signal communications and monitoring of electronics emanations such as microwave and radar. Approximately 70% of all telephone communications are now carried by microwave, and according to Soviet GRU defector Viktor Suvorov, this is an area in which the GRU has launched a massive intercept program. The interception of telephonic communications carried by microwave is one of the most productive sources of intelligence collection for hostile services. Government agencies and commercial contractors are linked into extensive networks which carry not only human voice, but data between computer systems as well. Interception is possible at any point in the network. Additionally, modern computerized monitoring equipment now makes it possible for hostile agents to key on specific numbers and selectively record information based on keywords. Why don't we just keep these agents out of areas where microwave signals can be intercepted? Unfortunately, the transmission footprint of a microwave signal is so broad that it can be received from too great a distance. Communications monitoring by Soviet trawlers has taken place for years. Packed with electronic equipment, these ships operate just outside of our territorial waters near U.S. naval facilities, fishing for information. Similarly well equipped with all sorts of devices to intercept communications are the buildings which house Soviet bloc diplomatic representatives. Experts have identified high-frequency antennae aimed at the Pentagon, CIA, and even certain executive limousines. What can be done to protect ourselves? The Pentagon has resorted to the use of fiber optics for all internal communications, and the National Security Agency was given authority to develop secure voice encryption phone systems, which are now on the market and in use at many government and contractor installations. The bottom line, however, is do not attempt to discuss or talk around classified information over any uncleared phone system. As defined by the U.S. Criminal Code, espionage is the act of obtaining, delivering, transmitting, communicating, or receiving information about the national defense with an intent or reason to believe that the information may be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation. The offense of espionage applies in time of war or peace. By examining some recent espionage cases, we can learn about the methods of recruitment, the vulnerability of cleared personnel, conditions that might predict espionage involvement, and something about the consequences of espionage and the personal price people pay. Popular misconceptions about espionage reflect a view of glamorous foreign agents who, masquerading as wealthy socialites, infiltrate the country, acquire access to classified materials by some ingenious means, and vanish into the night. Associated with this is the idea of intrigue, money, James Bond, high-tech gadgetry, sex, glamour, and violence. Although technically possible, this scenario is not typical. A recent case which demonstrates the rare situation of a deep cover agent was that of Larry Wu Tai-chin, an agent for the People's Republic of China and at the same time employed by the CIA for 30 years. It is believed that he provided the People's Republic of China with classified CIA reports on the Far East throughout the Korea and Vietnam conflicts. He may have received as much as $1 million for his betrayal. However, after being convicted on 17 counts of espionage, he committed suicide in his cell. The two types of agents most often referred to by counterintelligence experts are legals and illegals. Legals have a cover as diplomats or official representatives, but actually are engaged in the recruitment and control of operatives. Illegals are agents who secretly enter the country under falsified credentials. They pretend to lead conventional lives, but covertly participate in espionage activities. Illegals may spend years developing their connections before becoming active in espionage. This is referred to as a sleeper. Or they may attempt to enter the country for one specific mission. Generally, a foreign agent would prefer not to risk arrest by committing espionage themselves, but rather attempt to recruit American citizens or immigrant aliens for the purpose of espionage and then serve as a manager and conduit for that information. This is really where the greatest damage is done, since in theory, only U.S. citizens have access to U.S. classified material and are in a position to sell or give it away. Earlier, reference was made to the cloak and dagger image of spies. But in fact, contemporary espionage takes on a lot of the characteristics of white-collar crime, in which the perpetrator sees classified documents as a marketable commodity. Those who did the most damage in recent years were our own citizens, who, having access to classified material, were recruited or controlled by foreign intelligence agents. The foreign operative, however, is still very much a part of espionage, as a recruiter, manager, and go-between. The most effective foreign operatives are charming, likable, and usually pose in another capacity. They are very professional and most often enjoy diplomatic immunity. Most of us have heard about the Walker, Whitworth, or Pelton cases, but there are many more attempted crimes of this nature which don't get the same press attention. Over the last 10 years alone, federal agents have stopped well over 45 major espionage attempts. Beyond the occasional mole being unearthed, two general patterns are recognizable: espionage resulting from the recruitment of vulnerable Americans, and espionage resulting from the willful decision to market classified information for profit. There are normally 4 recognizable recruitment steps used by the foreign intelligence operative, and it is essential that each cleared person know and understand them. The first step is selection of a possible candidate. This is referred to as spotting. The main criteria is access to desired information. This is the main reason you should never wear clearance identification badges off-site or discuss your access outside of your work area. Other vulnerability factors such as stress, frustration, financial crisis, or other situations where the target might suffer from impaired judgment are also considered. The second phase is assessment. The operative will look for exploitable weaknesses such as drugs, sex, alcohol, psychological problems, or illegal activities. Blackmail and sexual entrapment, although used occasionally, are not the preferred recruitment strategy in the United States. The preferred modus operandi here is based on positive incentives and friendly persuasion. The third phase is the development or cultivation of the target. The operative attempts to develop a relationship through mutual interests, establishing trust and a sense of friendship and obligation. The operative applies positive incentives such as loans and favors. Eventually, they will attempt to develop a pattern of payment for services rendered utilizing requests for innocuous or unclassified information. Rewards for cooperation will be followed by a fear of exposure. This is the entrapment. The final step is activation, or the tasking and payoff. Classified or sensitive information is requested from the source and supplied. By the final phase, the foreign operative has already established the pattern of payment for services. The steps are small, from selling non-sensitive information to proprietary, and ultimately to classified material. An excellent example of a systematic recruitment for espionage is the case of William Bell. In the late 70s, Bell was a radar systems project manager in California. Although a senior engineer with his firm for several years, he was facing financial and personal problems, not the least of which was that his apartment was being converted into a condominium. He needed a lot of cash quickly to buy the unit or move. By fortune, or more likely design, Bell became acquainted at poolside with Marian Zakarski, regional director for Polamco, a Polish trading firm. Bell and Zakarski, who was also a resident at the same complex, soon grew to be close friends. Eventually, Zakarski asked for help in finding business contacts for his firm. Bell was happy to help his new friend, and even more so when Zakarski presented him with a consultant's fee of several $1,000s. Bell began regularly providing his friend with non-sensitive company reports, which later became proprietary and eventually classified. It wasn't until Zakarski arranged a trip for Bell to meet Polish officials in Europe that he realized he wasn't dealing with businessmen at all, but actually Polish intelligence, and that Zakarski himself was an officer of the Polish intelligence service. Bell had gained approximately $150,000 during various transactions, and in the process had provided secret documentation that seriously compromised the quiet radar system. In 1981, information provided by a Polish defector helped U.S. intelligence services identify Bell as the source of the compromise. He was confronted by FBI agents and agreed to cooperate in the effort to apprehend Zakarski. Ultimately, Bell was sentenced to 8 years and Zakarski to life imprisonment. The case of Alfred Zay is an excellent example of why defensive security briefings are required prior to attending conferences, even in the U.S., where representatives of designated countries might be present. Zay, an East German agent, had been fronting as a physicist very successfully for several years. He was arrested in 1983 while attending a Boston scientific conference, after an engineer recognized a recruitment attempt due to attending a defensive security briefing and reported him. Zay was later exchanged for the release of political prisoners who had been supportive of democratic changes. An interesting point for your consideration is the difference between foreign exchange students attending U.S. and USSR universities. Not only is there a difference in the courses studied, but the Soviet students average 35 years of age, have a PhD equivalence, and 8 years experience in applied physics, electronics, engineering, or another related technical field. Additionally, there are 35,000 diplomats in New York City alone. 168 are Soviets on the United Nations staff. One UN official stated that only 1/3 of the Soviets are actually doing UN work. Fortunately, new more restrictive controls have been placed on over 500 UN employees from the nations of the USSR, Algeria, Cuba, Iran, Libya, and Vietnam. The potential for espionage is a very real threat that each one of us must be aware of and ready to recognize. Before concluding, let's discuss some specific items each of us must keep in mind. Company identification. You should never wear your company identification badge outside of the Aero and Naval Systems facility. It identifies you as a cleared employee of a major defense contractor. Wearing your identification outside of the facility is advertising for possible intelligence exploitation. Security containers. Ensure you understand your responsibilities as a classified container custodian. Never leave a classified container unsecured and unattended. Always annotate the container log sheet and have another employee double-check to ensure the container is properly secured. In each instance of an unsecured container violation, the responsible person was not obtaining a double-check. Documents. All classified material entering Aero and Naval Systems must be taken to the Classified Material Management Center for proper accountability. If you develop classified material, ensure that you are knowledgeable of all proper marking and accountability requirements and follow them consistently. Remember, classified material can only be copied, destroyed, or transmitted outside of the facility with proper security authorization. Additionally, security operations must be notified each time a classified document is permanently transferred to another employee's responsibility. Be sure you use a sign-out card when you temporarily transfer a document to another employee. You do not want to be the last person signed for a document somebody else has misplaced. Automated information systems. Classified information can only be processed on automated information systems, including memory typewriters, with prior Department of Defense approval. All procedures established by the Defense Investigative Service industrial security representatives must be followed consistently. Classified visits. If you are attending a classified meeting outside of our facility or are hosting a classified meeting on our facility, contact Classified Visitor Control to ensure you are meeting all government-required security procedures. Please remember to give as much advance notice as possible to allow for processing time at all facilities involved. Everyone attending this presentation has been given a security supplement for cleared employees. This supplement is a handy, quick reference guide for many security situations. Additionally, it has a convenient listing of telephone extensions to assist you with your security requirements. In addition to the supplement, the Security Standard Practice Procedures Manual gives detailed instruction for almost any security situation. If you have a question regarding a security matter, please contact Security Operations. Our resources are available to assist you with your security requirements.
In protecting America's secrets, the role of security is vital, and you should recognize the security professional as an ally. If you are approached in a suspicious manner, security should be notified immediately. Even if a friendship has been established or the individual has already been able to acquire some information, security should be consulted. A security professional will be able to analyze the situation and propose an appropriate course of action. Effective counterintelligence is a demanding discipline, and any attempts by untrained individuals to handle hostile intelligence on their own could not only result in personal disaster, but also interfere with the FBI's coordinated counterattack. The threat posed by foreign intelligence agencies cannot be underestimated. History reveals many instances where nations were gravely damaged by the efforts of hostile intelligence services. The trade of espionage is not a game, and it is the responsibility of each individual entrusted with sensitive material to do their part in protecting our national security. Without the loyalty and support of dedicated citizens, even the most efficient security procedures are of little value. It is hoped that the information in this presentation will heighten your security awareness as a Martin, Marietta, Aero, and Naval Systems employee and encourage your continued support of the Defense Industrial Security Program in force within the facility.